One of these features a horizontal camera layout, while the other one is vertical. One of them has rounded corners, whereas the other one has sharp square edges. So which one do you actually prefer? The Samsung's vertical layout has a significant downside. It's quite wobbly when placed on a table. The Samsung is definitely thinner, but its battery is smaller, and it lacks a dedicated telephoto lens. Hahaha. Did I manage to scare you when I suddenly flipped it over? But it seems that Samsung users really don't care about that. Their biggest flex is the claim that Samsung screens are the absolute best in the world. Their outer screen sizes are actually quite similar, as both are 1.5K. The Samsung is 14.29, while the Huawei is 13.29. You can clearly see that the Huawei is just a little bit wider. Samsung has a flat edge screen, while Huawei's is rounded. The flat edge screen definitely has more visual impact, but it doesn't feel quite as good in the hand as the rounded one. Both outer screens are linearly polarized. When the polarizer is rotated to a certain angle, it gets so dark you can barely see anything. Look at the iPhone 17 Pro Max. No matter the angle, it stays clear under the polarizer, which means it's a circularly polarized screen. When we examine the manual indoor maximum brightness, Samsung defaults to approximately 446 nits, and it reaches about 758 nits with the extra brightness feature enabled. In comparison, the Huawei device sits at around 642 nits. Regarding the dimming, Samsung utilizes 4 EM pulse dimming at medium to high brightness levels, and then switches over to 480Hz PWM dimming when the brightness is set low. Now let's try to locate the exact switching threshold. It appears to be right about here, at approximately 119 nits. Huawei uses 3 EM pulse dimming for medium to high brightness and 14 to 40 Hz PWM dimming for low brightness. That's the strategy. The switching threshold is around here, at a brightness of 90 something nits. If we go into eye protection mode, there's a low flicker toggle. Turning it on delays the switching threshold. to about 50 nits. Next, let's compare their flicker performance in detail. First, medium to high brightness, both set to 494 nits. You can see the black bars on the Samsung are very dark, meaning its flicker modulation depth is much higher than Huawei's. It's similar to the iPhone 17 Pro and Pro Max. Well, big foreign brands are just better, right? Everything's better from abroad. Now let us look at the issue of flicker at low brightness. At that same 41 nits, the Samsung display is truly an eyesore. Not only is the modulation depth very high, but the duty cycle is also significantly reduced. Even Apple has introduced a pulse smoothing toggle to help slightly improve low brightness flicker. Samsung is still doubling down on a bad path, completely ignoring the potential harms of flicker. Expanding them to compare the inner screens, still at 41 nits, with the same dimming and flicker differences. The inner screen sizes are similar, 7.6 inches versus 7.7 inches, and the PPI is about the same. The aspect ratios differ slightly. Samsung is 11.9.9, Huawei is 12.7.9. On the inner screen, the Samsung is wider. There is one strange thing. The Samsung device cannot hover past the 90-degree mark, so it cannot be used as a stand for photos. If you look at the camera interface while flipping it, you will see it doesn't even have a stand mode, and you cannot use it as a stand for watching videos either. It is honestly a bit disappointing. For manual indoor max brightness on the inner screen, Samsung is 505 nits, about 786 nits with extra brightness, and Huawei is around 659 nits. The dimming strategy is the same as the outer screen. Samsung uses 4 EM pulse for medium to high and 480Hz PWM for low brightness. The switching threshold for this display is around 87 nits. Below that, it uses PWM dimming, while above that threshold, it switches to EM pulse. Huawei's internal screen also uses a 3-pulse EM dimming method for medium to high levels, and 1440 Hz PWM for lower brightness. Its switching threshold is situated at around 54 nits. There's really no need to bother comparing the flicker at medium to high brightness levels. The difference is quite obvious. Both of these inner screens are non-polarized, which makes their anti-reflection performance significantly worse. Even though they utilize technologies like color filter encapsulation to reduce reflection, it is still not as effective as using a proper polarizer. I distinctly recall the Magic V6 having much better anti-reflection capabilities compared to other foldables. This is a uniformity comparison of the inner screens at the same ultra-low brightness, and here's the outer screen comparison. Now, let us examine the color. From a certain specific angle, the Samsung screen still shows a very clear greenish tint, so I will say goodbye to everyone for now.